And good evening. This evening, we're doing a little roundhouse chat. 100th Loudon Classic, the middleweight guys, the big race, and some of the guys that participated in that race. And as you can see, one of our participants is currently at the golf course. You just can't make this up when you have people on here. And so as he's swinging away, we've got Mike Lee, Paul Duvall, Harlan Hildebrand, Eli Block, and Ian Beam. These guys all participated in it. We've got four of the top local guys that qualified for the local money with us this evening, as well as what they received from the big purse. So with that, I'll pass it off to Mike. And Mike, if you could introduce yourself and tell us what your impressions of the race were.
So I'm Mike. I started racing in 21. Going into the classic. My second time on rain tires, so pretty minimal experience on rains. I was hoping that would level the playing field a little bit, and it kind of did. Off the start, going into turn one, it was a little hectic. I couldn't see anything with the spray. And then all the restarts, I was getting a little my confidence was just super low after seeing all those guys go down in front of me, and but I had a good time.
Yeah, it had to be crazy with all the restarts, because and just the steady rain. I mean, it rained steadily the entire time you guys were out there, and I know it had to get frustrating seeing that red flag. I don't think you guys got more than maybe 4 laps in clean before another red flag was thrown.
I think our longest was 20 to 15. We made it one stint. Yeah, I don't remember.
What does that mean? I think it was 5 laps, the biggest one.
Yeah.
I know it wasn't more than that, but good for you. I mean, starting out in 21 and getting ready and qualifying for the classic. I mean, congratulations to all you guys just to qualify. I mean, that bar was set really high, and I know you guys really put in a real tough. I know Paul's been working his butt off just for this race, all season. I mean, dropped a bunch of weight and just grinding at it. And then to end up in a rain race, that's kind of a letdown, because I think a dry race would have been a lot more fun. But Paul, why don't you give us your two cents worth on it?
Yeah, I did put in a lot of work to the classic. It all lined up timing wise really well for me. This is my 5th year racing again. And sort of hit my stride at the end of last year. I was riding pretty well. So I just kind of thought I'd put a good effort towards it, although I don't really have the money to put a superbike motor towards it. But I did get my A motor back in the bike, prepared the bikes. I got my B bike working so that I had a rain setup a little different from my dry bike. But that strategy backfired on me a little bit because when the weekend came around, my A bike started to misbehave and blow fuses on the track. It kept dying while I was riding, and my B bike was set up for rain, and I didn't feel like I could just jump on that one, put the slicks on it, and go for a lap to get it to qualify for the race. So I stuck it out trying to troubleshoot my A bike, and I never did solve the problem. So the whole time I was unsure if the bike was going to run or not run. So those laps I did were some of the most white knuckle laps of my whole career. And it wasn't what I expected this round to be after all the preparation I put into it. And after I got home, I put a 30 amp fuse in the thing and ran it to burn the harness and see where it was shorting, and it was just in the little harness that goes to the start switch, and it was something I was never going to find at that moment, so so for me, the whole event was a kind of a disaster from the start. The race itself, my visor fogged right away. I had a pin lock, but it must have gotten tweaked when I installed it, because it fogged right in between the pin lock and the visor, and I couldn't see at all. So my lap times just got slower and slower. We kept trying to fix I took the pin lock off. We drilled holes in the visor. I just couldn't get any visibility the whole time. And so like Mike, my confidence was going down and was pretty much at an all-time low by the last start.
Yeah, and then the last two starts, they didn't really even count for anything, did they?
None of them did. I was stuck in 19th place the whole time.
Yeah.
I mean, after the fifth lap, you were basically stuck in position. So I think I had one good start where I was up into the top 10, maybe 12 places, but we didn't finish the lap and it didn't pan out, so that was it.
All right. Harlan.
Yeah, I mean, it was a great weekend, honestly. Qualifying was awesome. I learned a lot of things from the pros. It was a lot of fun riding with them. And then the race was interesting. It was nerve-wracking every red flag, and then I was a part of one of the red flags, and then I kind of just, like, once I knew that I could ride the bike for the rest of the race, I just kind of maintained and tried to keep it up, and yeah.
I'll tell you, it's hats off to every one of you just for sticking it out. And I'm going to come around with a few questions after, because I'm going to ask how many of you were involved in one of the red flags or went down and then got back up and went after it. And looks like Eli's taking a swing. So
Eli's playing some whack fuck.
I'm here.
He's playing whack-a-mole.
What's up? How we doing?
4.
I think he's got his AirPods in or something.
Okay. So, classic. I really wasn't able to prepare.
First and foremost, Eli.
Yeah, what up?
You were definitely on your game. I mean,
I would think so.
Yeah,
I would. That was my first time ever riding a 600 in the rain. That's fine. That was my first time ever riding a 600 in the rain. I've always loved riding in the rain, but I've ridden a street bike once in the rain before. I rode a 400 once, and I don't know. I came into it very confident. Qualifying, I ran my first ever 11.5, or I ran 11.5. And it was my first ever 11. I ran it solo, so I had to do it by myself. And yeah, overall, it's a great weekend. Josh Hayes helped me out a whole bunch with suspension, and changed a huge step in the right direction this weekend. And yeah, the race was crazy. I couldn't see for her about 90% of the race until we put a pin lock on my helmet about the last 4 restarts. But yeah, no, I was up in the top 3 for pretty much the last third of the race. I was in the 5th through 3rd battle the whole entire race, or at least that part. So it felt good going up there and battling. I knew I could be up there. And I knew before the weekend it was going to be hard to, at least in the dry, because I was doing the 400 race and the 600 race for endurance wise. And luckily I didn't need any of it.
Good. Yeah. You definitely you highlighted your talent over the weekend. We'll just say that. I mean, You won the
Thank you.
500 Pro Superbike, and then you took a fifth in the Classic. Came back Sunday, and I believe you won the Dash for Cash. So yeah, that was a hell of a weekend for you.
Yeah, I won out of the 5 races I did this weekend. I won 4 of them, and 5th in the Classic. So it was overall amazing weekend.
That's awesome. And just so you guys know, Eli's out playing golf, playing with his balls. So he was kind enough to join us while he was still swinging the club.
I'm on the 9th hole, so I'll almost be ready to be in the car. So we'll be good.
All right, Dan.
9.
Yeah.
I know you were riding. You were still kind of injured.
Yeah.
And you got out there and you qualified and you raced it, and that in itself, being injured, that's a pretty good deal.
Yeah. It was a great weekend for me. It was really the first weekend my ribs weren't bothering me. I tried to do a couple track days beforehand just to feel it out. Paul, actually, Carrie were gracious enough to fit me in for one, and snuck another one in before the big weekend. But made it out for qualifying. Picked up a whole stack of tires for the weekend just in case, and got back to 13s just barely. But I snuck one in there in qualifying, so that felt great. And then the big race that I don't know if you'd say the big race that wasn't, but certainly a long race. I was well prepared. It worked out in my favor because I hadn't been able to work out for 2 months, so I wasn't really ready for 25 laps in the dry. But I borrowed a rain suit, which worked out awesome. I had a pin-lock visor, thanks to Joe Amendolia. He hooked me up with a great helmet. So I was honestly comfortable the entire 2.5 hours we were sitting out there in the rain. I would have done another 5 restarts. I said it, that day, and I was just, everyone saw. I had told everyone I'm going to be starting in the back at least 75% of the race. I will be starting last, and I stayed true to it. Everyone saw me taking my time, waiting for the next red flag. The amount of people I passed on track. Eric Wood twice in turn 2. Harlan, you had one down. I might be spoiling some of your who crashed and restarted, but oh my God, the amount of people we dodged. Rick Doucette and I almost ran over someone going from 2 to 3, and mayhem. Even chopping the throttle and hanging in the back, it was still mayhem just watching this all go down. And unfortunately for me, I finally decided to give it an honest effort for what ended up being the last start, when they told us, all right, no matter what, we have to finish with basically 3 laps, start to finish. And I said, all right, now that I know we're down to the final 3, I've got to actually step it up and try here. And I had a great start. I had a great little move on Harlan and Brian Wardius into 3. I just felt good and started to push. And by the time we came out of the bowl, red flag again. So, it was kind of all for naught. But no regrets, coming in 25th in that mayhem. I was just happy to be out there. I would have been happy with 32nd, and I said that, and I meant it. Just to be in the mess, and to have earned it in the dry, to make it into the race was something pretty neat for me. So, but kudos to all those who kept pushing every freaking restart, and to some extent made it count in the final standings, because it was hard to keep your head in the game for over 2 hours of that.
Yeah, it was a long race. It was a long race for the spectators too. There were people. I've never seen that many people up in the NASCAR stands and just around the track, standing out in the pouring rain and not giving 2 shits about the rain, and just screaming and yelling and cheering every time there'd be a start. And that was a pretty cool perspective to see all of that going on, and hearing the bikes go, and it was definitely something. No doubt about that. So we'll go around again. How many of you got tangled up? I know I saw a picture of Eli going on the ground. He was kind of doing the dance in the air. Somebody caught it, and they posted a picture. It was kind of blurry, but I looked and I said, "Oh, that's Eli." I could tell. And Eli cost me $50 in the off-track betting side for the Karen Hornbecker farm, which I don't mind. I was going to lose $50 one way or another on him, and then I lost another 50 because I said Teague would be the first Suzuki to finish, which his teammate was the first one. So that cost me $100, but to a good cause. But Mike, anything really close that almost took you out? Any bumping and grinding?
Danny Weems crashed in front of me in turn 2, and
How many times?
ran over him. I think 3 times actually.
I think he had 1 or 2 in front of me. So
yeah. But I was sitting around mid pack, so I saw a bunch of crashes in front of me. They were all like maybe 3 or 4 bikes ahead of me. So,
but no bumping and grinding.
No, not for me.
That's good. That's good because
impressive being in the midfield.
Yeah, the middle of the pack in that group, I would have thought there would have been a lot of paint trading, almost like NASCAR. How about you, Paul?
Yeah, so I was right behind Joe Lamondre, who I think might have been the first crasher, and when he spun out in 12 and hit the wall. That was pretty eye-opening, watching him hit the wall back first. Luckily, he got up and was okay. I kind of didn't know which way to go. His bike and he was against the wall. His bike was in the line. So I got through that one okay. He told me later that he just stood against the wall because he couldn't go anywhere. He was pinned against the wall while all the bikes came by. So that one was pretty nuts. And then I think it was Isaiah Davis who did that dive into turn 1 on one of the starts. I got right in between. I got right in behind that one. And that was pretty wild. Yeah, and then pretty much I think everybody rolled through the same crashes because they happened on the first lap, so no one was that far behind at the point when everybody was crashing. So I think everyone saw almost someone sliding down the track on every single start. So yeah, saw a ton of carnage.
Yeah,
I didn't have any moments, but I was just struggling with vision. So I honestly I couldn't even really roll on the gas because I wasn't sure I was going to be on the track or not on the track. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling when you can't see.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Harlan.
Yeah, I went down in turn 2.
Here's the question: did you cause the red flag, or were you just a byproduct of it?
Oh, I was the only person that crashed, and I crashed by myself. Yeah, no, I think it was one of the longer stints that we had, because I just, I remember like I was passing some people and I was just feeling really comfortable, and
you passed me
coming out of 2, I just grabbed the shift and it just started stepping out and flicked me over the top.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to see you go down. I couldn't see 2 from where I was at because I was running around trying to get different vantage points, and I was trying to videotape the scoreboard. And that was something I tried. I did it for the Pro 500 Superbike, and I posted that video. And I tried to do it for the Classic, but the scoreboard was screwed up. I mean, it was just chaos in the middle. They didn't have anybody correct. I was like, well, I can't really video the scoreboard and try and narrate it when I'm looking at Race Hero. Race Hero's wrong. The scoreboard's wrong. And I could tell who's who as they go by. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't going to work. So there was a lot of mayhem going on with everything, not only you guys out on the track, but everything associated with it. Yeah. But you got back up and you finished though, right?
Yeah. So I don't know where it came from, but someone on pit lane had some zip tape So when I crashed, the fairing was basically being held on by like the bolts screwed into the frame, and that was it. And like the whole like front dash section was just shattered. Like there was nothing left of it. And so yeah, when it got back to the pit, someone had some like zip tape for like roofing stuff, kind of, and they just went around the bottom of the bike and the gas tank and just did that a whole bunch of times until it was basically solid. And then the bars were like all tweaked and all that, and we tried to bang them into place as best we could, but they're definitely like bent pretty good. But
When
yeah.
you rolled up with the tape wrapped around your bike, I was like, what? What the fuck is that?
Yeah.
Says the guy who I watched get his visor drilled.
Yeah.
It was what a disaster. The whole thing.
So Eli, I saw you dancing through the air. Where was that? 12?
Yeah, I don't even remember how far in the race it was.
It was in
But
the beginning.
I remember I was probably like, it's probably like the third time I had to go through the pack. Because my starts were horrible. My starts were the definition of dog shit. So I kept on spinning on the what's called the granite strip. So I kept on pushing through the pack, and I literally came through, and because I've never ridden the 600 in the rain, I never had like any like idea of what was too far, and I found it. But yeah, down to turn 12 and turn 2, there was like we break the track into thirds. The second third of the turn 2 and 12 were like ice. I don't know if you guys felt that, but if you were any leaned over on that, completely sideways.
Welcome to middleweight.
But yeah, I'm just mad I got banned from a motard in that class. I would have raced the motard. But I will admit,
either way, Eli, those lap times were insane. For the conditions.
Well, you had the fastest lap of the race, I believe.
Yeah, I had the fastest lap of 19.3. It was
absolutely nuts.
I've never I really, as I said before, that lap actually came. Oh, where's my keys? That lap came after I blew turn 1. I was trying to go around the outside of Brandon Posh into turn 1, and he kind of turned in late, and I wasn't expecting it, so I grabbed, instead of 2 downshifts, I grabbed 3 downshifts. Bike went completely sideways, and I went around the outside turn 1. I only lost 1 spot to Isaiah, and just came through that pack, or trying to catch up to Isaiah the next lap, and I ran that 19, I think 3. So it was like, overall, I don't know. It was I think the crash, to be honest, helped loosen me up for the race and give me a feeler for how far I can push the bike. And about probably like the 70th restart or so, I had to drop pressures in the rear because I started like sliding like crazy. So I don't know. It was a learning experience for sure, and I'm glad my learning experience ended up being as high as it was.
Well, and I'm sure you guys could feel it. And one thing that, and if you couldn't, we could hear it. But every time you guys went down the front straightaway, as soon as you went over the paint stripe, you could hear that motor rev up. And I'm sure you guys could either see it on the tack or feel it in the bike.
Oh, you feel it.
Every time you went over the paint, it was like, whoa, that's insanity. Any no paint swapping, no ditches.
No, like I said, my whole goal was to keep my nose clean and not have to do any repairs. It was my birthday weekend. It was Father's Day weekend. The family was there. I just wanted to be able to come in, have a beer, and hit the grill and eat some cake. So I didn't want to be doing any repairs at night. I didn't want to be re-breaking ribs. Nothing. Yeah. I had my new body work on. I was super happy just to come away clean. But being in the back, I think I saw or went by just about every red flag accident there was. Like I said, I had some real close calls. One of the starts, Sweeney went into the airbag out of 2, and his bike pulled the airbag into the line coming out of 2. So I went around him, and then the airbag along with his bike is coming out into the line. That was probably my closest one. But I mean, yeah, Eli's crash. I'm going out of 12, just seeing the red flag, and Eli is running at me to get his bike. So there was just, I mean, coming by, like I said, Eric Wood standing in 2, seeing Danny Weems and Flinders tangled up outside of 8, like they came out of 7 and never turned. Just weird crashes. I mean, yeah, Rick Doucette, like I said, he peeled left coming out of 2 to 3, and all of a sudden there was a bike right in front of me. I mean, it shook him because he went all the way through the split, just bent over, shaking his head because he knew he almost just creamed that bike. And I was probably halfway through the whole ordeal, so it was getting old. But yeah, lots of what I expected, I guess. I mean, I think we all kind of knew it was going to be a long race, maybe not 2.5 hours almost long, but yeah, I stayed clean, but saw a lot of the aftermath.
I got another question.
Oh, hold on. Can I just cut in real quick? Because
Go
I
ahead.
kind of was trying to find my keys. But the crashes I did witness, PJ Highside in front of me. Because I was in like that front little pack, I did get to see all those crashes and like right in front of me within 1 or 2 bikes. So PJ's Highside was right in front of me. His bike was going left. He was going right. He was looking at me straight in the face. I was looking right at him. Josh Hayes crashed 3 bikes in front of me. Eric crashed, like I think 4. Like I came right out of the corner. I saw Eric flying midair. I didn't see it the second time, but Teague was right in front of me because me and Teague were going back and forth, and I think me keep on giving him pressure because we were trying to go for. We were right behind Blake and PJ, so for second place we were going back and forth for third. So I think that just me and him battling back and forth kind of just gave us that little extra bit of like kind of confidence or pressure to get on the gas harder, and he high-sided right in front of me. Richie crashed probably 3 or 4 bikes in front of me. It was crazy seeing all these guys just flying through the air.
I can imagine that's so it wasn't just for the local guys either. I mean, the Moto America guys, they were crashing all over too. So it was, like I said, it was a historic race in more than one sense. And we got a question from Nick Cahill. How'd your clutches feel after that many restarts? And we'll start with Mike.
I think my clutch took it pretty well. Towards the last couple of red flags, though, or restarts, you could actually smell burning. So I don't know if it was me or, someone else, but
Yeah,
my clutch did fine because I didn't want to go sideways on that paint stripe, so I really wasn't launching the way I normally do. So no issues with mine.
Yeah, same here. I didn't really have an issue. I was launching it way different, and it was weird being like kind of towards the back of the pack, like because the front guys, they would hit that granite strip and spin up instantly, and we would have like another 40 feet of track to get more speed before we hit the paint strip. So we were all like just like meeting like in one spot, and so the starts, like it was like you just kind of had to survive, and I wasn't really willing to push it on the starts.
Yeah, I didn't think of that. It would have been kind of like an accordion effect because they would have lost traction because they were so close and hard on the power, which gave you guys time to catch up. So I could see where that accordion effect would kind of bunch up and then bounce back.
Absolutely. I was right in the middle, and so I would have to kind of hesitate. So I just worried about the front row guys spinning. And then the back row people would come sailing by me because they had all that run before the line. It was weird.
How about you, Eli? Or did you even use a clutch?
To be honest, I probably would have been better off starting in fifth gear, just wide open. But yeah, I think I was letting my clutch out. Probably I was trying to let it out before the granite strip, but in the first regular start, so I was consistently launching it. I used the clutch the next day in the dash, and it started fine. But I'm scared. I mean, I'm not going to look at it when it comes out because I'm not taking it out. But I feel like my dad's a little bit scared to see it when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same as most of the guys, plus being towards the back. I mean, I had a good run, but I was launching like I was daily driving from a traffic light, you know, and then I was short shifting as I went over the stripe. So I learned that from the April round. That's my opportunity to kind of grab second and lug it across the line. And yeah. I also just did new plates in both bikes before the season, so no issues here.
All right. We'll take some more questions. We've got a question from Ian. Eli, how much of your winnings did you spend on a golf membership?
All right, so here's the thing. So my winnings, I took $5,000 of it to pay off a loan for my 400. The other 15, 16, 17, 18 kind of, I mean, I walked away with a good amount of money, but the rest of it went paying off my parents. So I personally haven't taken crazy amount of money off of it. I got my golf membership at $440 3 weeks ago before the Classic, so I didn't use any of the money towards it. But I have not really spent any of that money other than the loan to pay off the loan and then pay off my parents for the money I owed them earlier this year.
Good man. Pay off that debt.
That's
Yeah,
good.
so
You said that you're in a ritzy golf course, so you're just using other people's Pro V balls. So that's always good.
Yeah, no, I to be honest, the golf course that I live in, I live in a small town with like probably 2,000-3,000 people, and we have 6 golf courses within 3 miles. So there's a whole bunch of Pro V1s in the woods if you decide to take a walk.
All right, let's take another question. Mike, Mike, this one's right to you, buddy. Cardboard fiber wheels. We have to know what that means.
I feel like that's not a French lost in translation either.
I don't even know what that means.
I'm not sure either.
Oui.
I think maybe we can get Samir to translate. I know he's watching because he's already made a cut. Well, wait a minute, we got people jumping in.
Yeah.
But yeah, did you bend or break a wheel last year?
I bent a couple wheels last year.
So that's probably what he's kind of getting to.
I just saw one off as well.
Okay. So now the
I had to
plot
saw a
thickens.
wheel off too.
Don't forget your spacers.
This was my first time ever crashing at my 600. I was kind of depressed this weekend that I made it starting on a 600 to running an 11.5 before I ever crashed it. And then I crashed in the rain.
Wow.
So I was kind of sad about that.
That's an impressive run, though.
I what was it? Like how many rounds? It was probably, I did 4 last year. I did probably like 10 rides before I crashed it. So I was happy with that run.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steve's made a couple of just comments, and yeah, I agree. They did a great job putting that all together, and then having it be an organized shit show because of the weather. And with all the things that went wrong, they lost all the gridding on the Friday races. there was a computer malfunction, lost all the grid sheets, and they had to go back and handwrite all the grid sheets, and it just seemed like a weekend of just craziness, crazy things happen. But yeah, I agree. I think they did a really good job at keeping it all together as best they could.
Yeah, this was probably
And-
one of the best NEMRR events I've ever been a part of.
And here's something else that Steve points out a little bit in regards to the different patches, the different material, and the different pavement. And like you guys were saying, there were sections that felt like ice. So, what are your thoughts on the different Is it actually doable for a competitive race with all these different types of compounds?
So
On the
by the
ground.
middle of the race, I had this idea. I was like, we're never going to finish this race because the money is too appealing and the pavement's too inconsistent. There's just no way we're going to get a lap done at this point. But then I realized, like, maybe there's something wrong with the rules. Everybody who red flagged the race was back on the grid in the same position they left it. And after a while, something seemed wrong with that. I know it's always been a little bit gray what happens to the rider who causes a red flag. But in this case, it was literally nothing. Nothing happened to those riders. And so regardless of pavement, how are we ever going to finish a race where there was no penalty for a red flag? That just occurred
I disagree with
during the race. If we're going to have money involved in racing, I feel like
Eli, it's not that kind of live stream, bud.
Your race might need to be over.
Come on, Eli, put some clothes on, would you?
But that was my thought during the race.
Yeah, I'm with you, Paul. I agree. After I could see for 2 or 3 red flags, sure, we follow the protocol, you go to the back, whatever it may be, if you can repair in time and restart. But after 7, 8 red flags, they probably should have said, all right, if you cause one more, you're out. Or, yeah, I mean, at least you start at the back. I get you're not redoing grids, but there's some people caused 2 or 3 red flags. There were multiple people that caused multiple red flags because they just were allowed to keep restarting.
So we were caught in a loophole. There were people who didn't actually restart and still got their position because there was never a completed lap.
Yeah.
So then we were stuck in this weird loophole. The rule needs to be closed up somehow, I think, but I don't know how.
I didn't really look at the rules. They didn't pertain to me because I wasn't in that race. But if I recall correctly from back in my AMA Cup days with the 883s and that stuff, a rider that caused the red flag basically would start at the back of the grid if they made it to the restart. If they stopped the race, the rider that caused the red flag would lose the position he was in. You couldn't maintain that position. He would go to the back. So, yeah, I wasn't aware of any of that, and I don't know what the rules say. I didn't look at them.
It's common sense that the rule is you go to the back of the grid if you cause a red flag. Because I got told I'm going to the back of the grid. I went up, I picked up my bike, I rode right by all the officials. I stopped by John Grush. I just looked at him. I was like, yo, am I starting in the back of the grid? And he looked at me like, yeah, you are. I was like, okay, that's fine. And I rode over to my pit and my team. They put on my foot peg. They ripped off my rear brake because it wasn't on. And yeah, I was the only person who went to the back of the grid.
You were the only one who did it.
Yeah, and I literally went from they put me 30. I went 32nd. Luckily, Jim Rich was nice enough to let me choose whatever spot, on the last row I can go. So on the last row, I chose 7C, so I could go on the outside. But yeah, I think it was a 2-lap stint after that, so I made from 32nd to 11th. But after that was the 3 red start. The 3 restarts after that was where the timing and scoring wasn't working. So I had to keep on going back to 11th, even though I was making my way up to 3rd, 4th, and I think I made to 6th in those 3 restarts. I went back to 11th.
Yeah, the timing and scoring did go kind of haywire. Like I said, the leaderboard, the big scoreboard was like, I was like, is he even still in the race? Because I thought he was out, and it was just nuts trying that. And Race Hero was way off too. So, and then all of a sudden, it was like there was a reset and everything was right again.
Ever since NEMRR took over from LRS, timing scoring has always been a little bit funky. I mean, it was still a little bit funky before. They had a little bit more on top, but I think there's something where once LRS left, they took a different timing and scoring system. So,
yeah, I think they partnered with Race Hero, and
Yeah.
I think that's what they rely on for that, is my understanding.
yeah, and don't get me wrong, it still works good enough, but timing scoring has always been a little bit funky. So, and especially in the bad weather, it's not like in dry conditions you can hand score sometimes, because if one person's missing, you can hand score them. Because when I did my time up in top, we also worked on that. But do hand scoring, but you can't really do that much, especially because people on the pit wall can barely see their own riders. The people up top are not going to be able to see anything.
Oh, I can imagine. So that the spray from the minute you guys started and got moving, the spray would have completely just covered you guys up. You would have seen maybe the first 2 or 3 bikes, and then everybody else would have just been in a fog.
The spray was very bad.
I just want to clarify that. I don't think NEMRR did anything wrong. I thought they ran the event the best that they could, given the conditions. I just think we got strangely stuck in this loophole, and it made me consider, are the rules, do they need to be changed so that races can actually finish if there's a situation like that? And, I don't know.
Yeah, the biggest thing was
I didn't think you were saying they did something wrong. I just think it was almost like Groundhog Day the way you guys kept restarting. It
There's
really
an
was.
exception that is what they ended up exercising in the end, which is basically at any point, race organization can just make a call. They have the right, the over encompassing right to just say, all right, extenuating circumstances, this is what we're doing. And that's why we ended and reverted a couple red flags without doing what the rule book says, which is 3 full laps. It's just, I know it was hard. I know they were kind of getting a little bit of heat from the pro teams first to keep going, and then I think it kind of switched to how many times do we need to wreck our bikes when we're up in the top, before you're going to call it. I think they were kind of getting it from both ends.
I think from what I heard, one of the M4 guys came up to him at the end of the race and said, how many times does my rider have to keep on winning for you guys to call it?
That's what I heard.
Which is very true. I mean, like, in time, these guys are definitely, like, I know the teams that called out John at first but what are we going to wait for someone to die? And then when someone dies, we have to keep on going because the red flag is the red flag. You can't finish a race unless we finish with a dead body laying in the middle of turn 12. So it's just
I actually think they did the right thing. They tried the green white checker twice, and you couldn't get a lap in because they both right after the start they were both red flagged, and at that point they said that's it. Strike 2 and you're done. So I don't know how the big pro teams could really bitch about it. It's not like they just kept trying to do that 3 laps over and over and over and over. I mean, they gave it two whacks at the apple, and at that
we
point,
made it to 1 lap to go. Before they had to try that, we were just about there.
Yeah, I thought they called the race because I started packing up all my camera gear, and then
they said some of us, Paul and I, went in, and then they came running over to tell us, no, go back out.
Yeah,
there was confusion.
I grabbed my camera, threw it in the trailer, and I had to go running back to the trailer. I was halfway down the pit row, and I went running back to the trailer to get my camera gear, and because you guys were lining up again, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Me and Isaiah were both like celebrating. We were jumping up and down because he got sixth, I got fifth. We were all jumping up and down, screaming with each other. And like then they come back over, they're like, all right, we're rerunning it. And probably like the 7th or 8th restart. I looked at all my crew and I was like, I'm physically not tired. Like I mentally don't think I can do any more of this. Like I'm so done with. I've already done 12 laps earlier today in the rain on a 400, like, or 10, whatever it was. I've done so many restarts here. I've crashed once. I've already had to come back through the pack. I've already had to do so much. And I mean, it was long. The race was long enough where my lap timer died. So, I mean, the last thing I heard of was like, that's why I was so surprised at the end of the race when I looked back at the results was when my dad was telling me that Hayes was just running away from everyone and he was running 20s. And I was like, holy shit, like, what am I running? He's like, you're running 23s. I was like, all right, good to know. And then to find out when I came in, probably like the 7th restart, they're all jumping up and down. They're like, dude, you ran the fastest lap of the race. Like, how? Like, these guys were running so much faster than I was running 23s. So it was definitely like a little boost of confidence after that. I was like, I knew I had the speed to like at least run up front or at least battle for the win. And that gave me that little extra spurt of confidence.
Yeah.
Right on.
Well, let's see. We've been on, I don't know, 45 minutes or so. I don't want to keep you guys. It's a weeknight, but and I haven't seen any more questions coming out, so I'm going to pass it around and just have you do a little recap of your entire weekend in a few words or less or whatever you want to do. We'll pass it around and we'll see if we get any more questions, and if not, we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Go ahead, Mike.
Chaotic. It was fun. Yeah, I don't know. It was a good weekend.
Quiet the whole night. I don't know what we're gonna do there.
Mike, you had an incredible qualifying run.
Yeah, 14-2.
Yeah.
That's sick.
Yeah. What was the official cutoff on the qualifying?
It's like a 14.
I just
Close to a 14.8, and then they changed it to, he said, 107%, which I think would have been
107.5.
Yeah, it would have been like a 115 point, what'd you say, 7 or something, but then they still filled the grid and put in like 2 more people that didn't technically make the 107%. So it was 107-ish.
107-ish. Okay. And yeah, every one of you guys just you sent it on the qualifying. I was glad that, and I know there was some grumbling about, well, they qualified during practice on this day, and I heard some of that in the pits, and I'm like, dude, they told everybody that.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry if you didn't catch it, but yeah, everybody knew that the practice on Friday was going to count toward qualifying.
Yeah.
That's why they had those sessions.
Was that first practice, that 14.9 you did, was that your first 14?
It was. Yeah.
So then he went out and ran a 14.2 in the second one. So that's even more. I mean, you probably dropped about a second from your best time, right? Just in the qualifying.
Yeah, just about a second.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's awesome.
Were you in Group B or C?
C.
C.
Yeah.
Really? Shit.
Yeah, he was the fastest Group C rider for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I from my part, I popped a lot of fuses. I was 12s or bust, and I busted my finger trying to do it. I did crash in qualifying. Lost both wheels going into turn 1 as I crossed the seam, and hit my fingertips on the curb, or whatever. I don't know. There's not a curb, but on the edge of the track. And one of them is not pointed in the right direction. Still.
So what did you get down to this weekend? Then, You get
I
down to,
just
like, a
did.
low
I
13?
had cracked off like 2:13.7s, and I was like, all right, now or never. I pulled the pin and crashed.
Yep.
So I was running, though, in that second session, I was running all 13s. I just I didn't get my chance to bust down into the next level.
Was that a personal best for you, Paul, or have you run?
No, no. I've come pretty close. I've had some low 13s, but yeah. With that fuse thing in my head, it was pretty white knuckle because my bike had quit like on track while trying to go. And I was worried about getting creamed from behind, like people were ripping out there. So
Were you in Group A or B?
B.
Okay.
I don't know if any of you guys saw the accident. Billy Sane got rear-ended on the front straightaway.
Yeah.
I was the first
Yeah.
person on track.
Hit him, Supermaned over the top of him, and landed in the track.
Yeah,
I heard
Todd.
Shula, one of our instructors.
that was just
that was
like
bad. I was
crazy.
actually going over to watch from the front straight, and I saw what I thought was a body fly through the air. And I could only kind of see above so I didn't realize, and then I heard the bikes, and I went over, and I later heard what happened. But yeah, Billy was lucky to not be much worse, but unfortunately Todd got a bit banged up. That was
beat up.
Me and my dad were the first two over the wall to go run and grab stuff. There was so much fuel pouring out that me and my dad literally were watching. I told my dad, I was like, yo, we should probably stay and watch because John Don's in this race. And we watched him go around one lap, then that happens. We're like, all right. We just wait until we knew the red flag was coming out. We waited. Then we started hopping over and just grabbing stuff and throwing it onto the wall.
Harlan, how about you?
I mean, it was great. I would say my first race on Friday. I would say it was probably one of my favorite races of the weekend. I got to ride with Stefano and Hayes and Posh and Lemandra and all of them, and it was just a very it was a fun race. Did some pretty good times in qualifying. I thought I was gonna get the 12s. My lap timer, as I was going over the line, it said 12:08, and I decided to pull off, and it wasn't a 12:08. It was a 13:1. So yeah. And then Sunday, I had a really good battle with Asher Rubright. And then ended up getting a win in that race. I think that was a heavyweight super sport, I think, or super bike, something like that. And then the dash was an awesome race. I tried to keep up with Eli for a couple of laps. He ended up kind of squirting away, and then it was just a nice mellow ride for the rest of the race.
All right. Eli, summarize.
Um,
Because, dude, you killed it. You killed it the whole weekend. You did.
it was a good weekend. From making my bike a whole bunch, like a complete 180 of geometry, from Josh Hayes telling me what to do, and just going from that and testing on Wednesday, Thursday. My dad helping me all weekend with that, and Friday kind of just relaxing until qualifying, not really knowing what. I mean, I went out. I saw first practice on Friday where all this. I think it was like the Group 8 and then Group 8A. I saw all the guys go out in Group 8, and I saw the group that I was in. There was the odds, and there was like really nobody out there. And there was only like 5-6 people out there. So I'm tempted to go ride, and I saw everyone running their times. I was like, I'll throw on my I'll throw on my tires with about 5 sessions on them, and go out there and just give it a rip. And I ran a 12.4 by myself, and I was like, okay, I think I got the 11 in me now. So went out, ran that 12.1 first lap of qualifying, and I remember the lap that I ran at 11. I looked at my lap timer over the hill, and I was under it by 0.3 my 12.1. And I looked at it going into 11. I was 0.5 down on it. So I told myself I can't blow it. I cannot blow this one. And coming out onto the straightaway, it clicked over into 6/10 under. So, yeah, it was crazy to finally run one. And then I went back out for a slow lap. Then I went back around one more time. Then I dropped another 11.7. So that felt it was a monkey off my back because I was at my best time last year was a 12.005. So I was on the edge. So I knew I had one. So I finally got, and to prove some people wrong, because people said Michelin's would never be able to get down to 11s or they'll never be able to do a lot of things. And I just want to go on that. Then in the rain, it was nice to, even like I knew if I started up front, I still have to battle it out. And even that starting in the back and coming through the pack, I think there was like a 5-lap stint where I was like behind Stefano, Shane, Richie, Teague, and I ran them all down with my visor open the whole entire time because I couldn't see. Just getting pelted in the face, and I picked off all of them. I picked off Stefano, then I picked off Shane, then I picked off Richie, and then I picked off Teague right before the red flag. So it was kind of nice doing some passes that people weren't doing. I guess rewatching videos, no one was passing up the inside of 11A like I always usually do. So I was just dive bombing into 11A, and I was
that pass leg dangling into 11A was nuts. I don't know if everyone's seen that, but
yeah, there's a video of me coming out behind Teague and leg dangling in front of him and going into 11A. Then passing up the inside of 4 was awesome because you can just come under in 3 and just stand the bike up and straight up and dive bomb it in there. And then just to finish that out and have all the emotions of like, oh, I'm up in 3rd, now I'm back in 11th. I'm up in 3rd, I'm back in 11th. It's just like there's a whole team effort between, even like we didn't have any tools down the pit road. It was just a brain fart from all of us, and I probably should have done that because I should have reminded myself or our team to do it. But even Tom Bebo, because we put it in front of his camper, we were asking him to throw stuff over the fence to us. He was throwing over towels. He was throwing over tools. He was throwing over everything to us. So Bebo helped out a huge amount. And then Sunday or Saturday going out there, and even like on the 400, I ran my track record on MR12 was 16.0, and I ran a 16.4 on a bike that has probably 3 or 4 or less horsepower, or no, 2 or 3 less horsepower because of not running MR12. So I ran the 16.4 or 16.3. So even just getting back down there and getting ready for Moto America in the next few weeks is just exciting. It's a whole bunch of emotions going on. And then I won the dash on Sunday and if you guys know Stowe has always been there for me. And, I work with Stowe during the summer. I work at Motor Race. So, he'll remember a phone call from 1986 on a Tuesday when it was raining with this guy, Mark, that he met. And he can't even remember the last time that Michelin's won the dash. So the fact that he doesn't remember that and we were able to finally get it. And yes, it sucks that Sweeney was hurt. Yes, that sucks that Shane wasn't racing it. Yeah, whatever. But it doesn't matter. It's still a win. So still, I won that one. I won the race with the 500 Super Sport race. So that was another money race. And then I won the ultralight superbike race where I passed Gunner on the Motard on the 400 and won that one. So it was a great race with him. He was going good. So that was another money race. So it was a big money weekend. So I was super happy with everything. Yeah, I made some good money for the payoff.
Good for you.
I want to know what Josh Hayes told you to do to your bike, by the way.
Yeah.
Call me later.
I was running super stiff in the rear. I was running a 1 in the rear.
And is that what Josh had you do, or that's what you were doing before?
No, he had me soften
it up.
Yeah.
When I took the A course on what was it, Wednesday or whatever, we had 2 guest instructors that were out there as track coaches watching us, and it was Stefano and PJ Jacobson. And I met Stefano down in Roebling in February, and I asked him if he was excited about coming up to Loudon for the classic, and he was like, yeah, I can't wait to come up, blah blah blah. But when we were out doing our track sessions, I come into 2 and I'm working on my body position and trying to get my head wrapped around getting back on the bike and riding correctly. And Stefano goes by me right on the edge of the wall. And I just completely forgot everything I was doing and just rode the bike watching him because he backed it into 3. The rear of the bike went back and forth a couple of times. There were little puffs of white smoke coming off the rear tire because he's stomping on the rear brake. He flipped it into 3. My mouth's hanging open, and I'm trying to remember, hey, you have to brake and turn. And I mean, just watching him, it was just amazing to see the difference from way back to now. The way you young guys are just slamming these bikes around. I was just in awe.
Yeah, these guys are amazing riders. Like, no matter what, like, I get it from a fan standpoint, like watching like these guys, it's amazing. Like, no matter what, these guys are awesome on bikes. But what a lot of people don't realize is there's just another person. Like, you can go up and have a full on conversation with them. And it's just like, there's another person. I mean, like, dude, Hayes, like, sure, I asked Josh because we got him. He called us. Him and Tony Roma called us for fuel for the weekend. So we brought them fuel, but it's like even after asking Josh, I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. He might feel like returning the favor. Just he helped me a little bit. But every time I went out for a session, he was watching me. He would walk back and ask me questions. He would come back and talk to me. It was probably like 5 or 6 sessions that he came back and talked to me every single session and just break stuff down with me. It was just like, dude, we're competing with each other. And, you know, there's not a lot of that goes on in Moto America with a lot of people that haven't raced it, but it's cutthroat there. No one wants to help. Someone will take you out and be like, oh, that's just racing. Like, I gave someone, I had a $2,000, no, it's $1,400 dash that I had for my 400 back in 21. And another kid broke his, and I gave him my backup one just to use it for a weekend. You know, we went over there that night and asked for that data just so we can compare it. And they looked at us and said, no. It's like, dude, you're running our dash. The only reason you have data is because of us. So it's just like that type of cutthroat energy is like what it is there. And to see that we probably had some of the better energy at Loudon was awesome. To see that Hayes was there. Stefano's an awesome guy. Me and Stefano have worked with kids down south. Me and him were actually down there in January. Me and him were doing some coaching with kids that we've always worked with down there. And, you know, it was just nice to have these guys at our home track and kind of get the atmosphere.
Yeah, hopefully it continues. Ian,
Yeah,
I know we talked quite a bit before the classic, and you were kind of, but you pulled it off, brother. You pulled it off.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm always cautiously optimistic. I think. I never like to set the bar high. That's been my case through my whole racing career. I never even intended a race. You know, I kind of haphazardly stumbled into it, kind of coerced. So I've approached that the whole time. You know, I always like to let, you know, my riding speak for itself. I'm not out here to set a goal and then, you know, go out and prove that I can do it. I ride my ride, and if it happens, it happens. But, you know, people on this video, first of all, I mean, Mike setting awesome times. You know, him and I are probably going to have some great battles now. It's cool to have some more. We have so many experts now who are really stepping up, and to see Mike make that huge jump is awesome. You know, I know Paul's not where he wants to be, but, you know, we both got back to the 13s at least 3 rounds into this year. It's where we ended last year. So it's a start. Harlan, they finally figured out that bike, and he's flying. He's, you know, 12s are coming next round for sure for him. And Eli, you know, I don't need to make his head any bigger than it already is. But more importantly, his dad putting in the time and the effort that he's put into, you know, getting the program going.
Yeah, there's about 50 hours plus before the weekend that went in.
The both of you are doing a killer thing. It's really awesome to see. So I think my whole takeaway from this is, you know, we had the lead up to all of this. We kind of all have commented at one point or another. We talked offline. I think for the most part, those of us who kind of took it for what it was going to be, it motivated everyone to step up and get excited. And, you know, I was working out coming into this year. I haven't done that since I started racing. And I used to be big in the gym, and I was like, well, I ride. I don't need to work out. And So it got me motivated to get back into it, and seeing what everyone in this video has done something coming into this year to get better or to prepare more, knowing that of all this big event was coming, not just being an expert racer and wanting to do your best, for our regular rounds, but knowing there was that cherry on top that you wanted to prove your worth. And, deep inside, of course, I was committed to making the top 32 somehow, but I had to check my emotions and my, my optimism and be like, well, if I make it, I make it. That'll be great. But I have to respect that, there's so many riders coming. And to be honest, even still, there were a number of riders that didn't come who would have made it even more difficult to be one of those 32. I respect that. But in the end, I got the job done, and I'm just stoked to be a part of it. And, for all the backlash that NEMRR has had, everyone knows I've had my little bits of drama coming into this season with rules and whatnot, but I still think they did, really probably the best that could have been expected of anyone in that. I mean, had Moto America been running that round, I don't think that it would have gone any differently. It was not the leadership that made it a disaster. If you call it a disaster, it was people just trying to push to the limit and not wanting to give up a spot, or not wanting to wait to make that next move, or not waiting to learn the track and respect the conditions. People talked about, is this track safe to ride with that many people or to push at that level? I think a track is just a track, and you ride it to the best of your ability. I had that opportunity to race in South America, and I was dodging cars driving across the track to get to the infield, dogs on track. I had a rock thrown at me, by some random guy that came out of literally hit the back of my bike. You ride the track that you're given, and I think no matter what caliber rider you are, there really shouldn't be any track that's not suitable for you within reason. I think Loudon is well within reason of being a track that you can go out and learn, and I think the biggest downfall was that these guys didn't have a day in the rain to practice. It was go out. Even the practice that morning was more or less dry. Yeah. And you really were just going out and ruining rain tires if you even tried them. So I think it was a crazy caliber of rider on a crazy track. And that's really all you could have expected from it. But I think it was awesome that they pulled it off to whatever extent you consider it to have been completed. And I was just happy to be a part of it. And it just has me more excited to keep riding moving forward. So kind of reignited the spark for me.
And NEMRR made some big changes with the track. Like that turn 3 runoff was crazy. That would made a huge difference this weekend. Like I mean, I used it the second lap of my whole entire weekend.
Yeah,
but
I've been calling 11 like a mirage in the desert. You come in and it looks like that fake water. You almost think it's going to be ice. It's so crazy how smooth it is.
Yeah, it's like they're making changes that are helping us. And no matter how much shit John and Noel and NEMRR itself, well, no one really shits in Noel. No one can. But no matter how much shit John and NEMRR get, there's nothing better they can do. This series would not even exist. We wouldn't be having this podcast. We wouldn't be having any of this if John and Eric didn't step up 3 years ago and throw away money that they had, but they could have kept. They could have had way more money now than they would have had before if they didn't do what they've done. So, for them to step up and keep the road racing alive in the Northeast, I give them so much respect for that, because without it, we wouldn't be here now.
Yep, and I think this big race, the 100th Loudon Classic, it kind of put the spotlight back on the Loudon racers. I really think it did.
Yeah.
There's a lot of organizations struggling right now.
For sure.
ARM is struggling. Weir is struggling. Everybody's struggling. But it seems like every round they do the Penguin School and the new licensing class, and there's 10 or 12 people in every one of them getting a race license, which is a good influx. So, so long as they keep that momentum going, and all of you and everybody else that's at the track, you guys go above and beyond promoting. the series and everything that goes on at Loudon. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope it continues to be a lot of fun. I just got to get my head out of my ass and start riding right. I'll be happy.
Well, we can help you with
fun.
that now. Now that we're done focused on the classic, you can ask any of us for our help, and we'll be able to give you our left nut on Friday.
All right. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it up. We've been going over an hour. We've had, I don't know, 20 or 30 actually live people watching, believe it or not. So we've had some views already, which is great. So if you guys would hang out for just a minute, I'm going to go through my little BS spiel here that I do at the end of every one of my videos. And that is, if you like the content, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Hit the thumbs up. Give us a like for that. It helps the algorithm. Make sure you hit the bell for notifications. And as always, have yourself a great evening. Have a great night.
Hey, guys.
Thank you.